Hi, I'm Nikita. I'm on the Glee team for communications.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm on the Glee team for software.
And today we're going to be talking about object-oriented programming. So, what is it exactly?
So, object-oriented programming is a kind of programming that focuses on the concept of objects, shockingly. An object as an entity with its own fields and methods. You can think of fields as attributes that we can assign to the object, and methods are functions that the object can undergo.
And how is that different from quote unquote normal programming?
So if you've ever done programming before, you might have done something called procedural programming, which focuses on problem solving by writing code from top to bottom, which will also execute from top to bottom. However, object-oriented programming is much more modular and in that sense, much more efficient. It allows for interactions between individual distinct objects, and this allows us to accomplish a wide range of end goals. Now, something that is important when it comes to object-oriented programming is that it is not necessary to know exactly how an individual object works internally, but instead to understand how to access that object's attributes and methods in such a way that you can interact with those objects in order to accomplish an end goal. This is a key concept you might have heard before, and it's called abstraction, which is the idea of hiding information that's not essential and only revealing what is absolutely necessary for functionality to the user and other objects.
So, what's a general example that people could perhaps relate to more?
Yeah, so if we kind of put programming to the side, we might consider cars to be objects. A car has attributes like its make, model, and color, and it might have methods like accelerate and brake. Now, of course, it's not necessarily important to understand how the engine works or what's happening at a low level when you press the brake. All you need to know is that when you do press the brake, the car slows down. When you press on the gas pedal, the car speeds up. So again, it's knowing how to use that high level functionality in order to accomplish a task.
And what's a more specific example to the Lunasat?
Yeah, so here we have a picture of some of our source code. This is the TMP117 class. So a class is kind of like a base plate for objects. And here we have basically a base plate for our temperature sensors. So an object is an instantiation of a class and it represents one specific temperature sensor, whereas our class will represent all temperature sensors. And of course, one object will have its own attributes and methods, like its sensor ID and the get temperature Fahrenheit function. Now, of course, once again, it's not necessarily critical to understand what's happening internally with these functions, especially as they can be pretty complicated, but it's just important to know how we can use these functions in order to actually perform lunar science with our sensor suite.
Awesome. Thanks so much.